Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today. My name is Adam Shimoni and we're coming to you live from our houses where we are going to be discussing some really good issues and topics with all of you today regarding families and family struggles and family solutions and just everything families that you might want to know with our good friend Kirsten Mueller. Kirsten, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and your energy and the work you do in our community. And we really appreciate you coming on our show twice now for the second time. And I'm really excited about today's theme. I think that this is going to be a really good topic for the public to learn about and hear some of your advice on. So why don't you take it away and kind of introduce what today's topic is?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And what I thought that we would talk about specifically for families who, are dealing with shelter in place, dealing with COVID-19, dealing with, families needing to be at home, dealing with the pandemic is I just chose a few topics that I have been hearing families that I work with experiencing, and I think that they're very common kinds of issues. So really, and I can go ahead and put them up on the screen so that maybe people can take a look. And there we go. So, the issues that can, that I've been thinking about, that I've been hearing about, that I think might be helpful to talk about today is how do I talk to my kids and teens about COVID-19, and how do I support my kids and my teens with online, coursework and schoolwork when I don't have any experience doing that? How can I encourage a more consistent daily routine with nutritious meals, exercise, and more time for sleep? And we can talk about that. How do I handle increased sibling conflict? Because I hear a lot of families talk about, their kids having more conflict with one another, spending a lot more time at home. And also, how do I handle, parent-child conflict if my kids in different ways are being unresponsive? And how do I access resources and mental health care if I notice my child or teen exhibiting symptoms of anxiety or depression? So those are the main things. And I thought we would go through them and see if that's helpful to people.
That's a great list of topics, and I'm very excited that we're covering this whole range of topics regarding family and dynamics. And I just think that this is very valuable information to our community, so I'm very excited about what you have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I will dive in. So, the first topic, how do I talk to kids, or family members about COVID-19? One of the things that I think is really important to keep in mind is that you kind of want to think about what's developmentally appropriate and use your own judgment about what you believe that your kids are ready to hear. And one of the things that I kind of use as a rule of thumb is that when kids are asking questions, when young people are asking questions, when adolescents are asking questions, usually that indicates to me a readiness to be able to have information about what's happening. So, obviously with very young kids, you just want to talk to them about, everybody's trying to keep one another safe. Why do we need to stay home? It's because we're trying to make sure that we're safe and other people are safe. With older kids, they might ask about, deaths, or they're hearing about, illness, and they're wondering about whether they can get sick or whether their parents can get sick. And I think that it's really important to be truthful. We don't want to overwhelm kids. We want to keep answers really simple and straightforward, and to allow kids to ask us more questions if we're not being specific enough. But and I think we should not be afraid to shy away from topics like death and dying, I think we should not be afraid to talk about, there being differences in families about, well, my friends are going out and playing with one another. How come you're keeping me home? Well, we really believe that in our family, it's more important to be able to keep everyone in the community safe and really respect the boundaries that have been set for us. So, and I think that it's important to be reassuring and to be as positive as you can be, that we will get to a place where life will return, more to normal. But I think that we want to answer our kids' questions as much as possible.
Great.
Mm. Um, and I also think that it's, that question of being able to really trust your own experience and values in relationship to your kids, and also don't be afraid to speak to your own value system, whatever your spiritual beliefs are or aren't. I think it's important to be able to speak to those things and not shy away from those conversations. So, should I go ahead? You have other thoughts, Adam?
I have plenty of other thoughts, but the only thing I was thinking is, when you were saying about keeping each other safe, and that's, the messaging that you were like, one of the ways to message it, to kids and such. I was thinking, in my head, what is it that we're really doing is we're keeping each other safe because we really care about each other. We want each other's well-being to be maximized during this difficult time. So it's really out of love that we then care for each other and do the things we're doing to protect each other. And it's a beautiful thing. And it just kind of made me think about all the great things that are happening in our community around that sense of compassion for each other.
I agree. And I really, I use language all the time of, being a loving parent, being a loving sibling, being a loving family member is really doing what we can to act in one another's best interests. They're always trying to act in one another's best interests. And it just so happens that this is a time that we need to be able to stay home and avoid contact, physical contact with other people, as a way to keep acting our everyone's best interest and show our love and care for one another in that way.
And another thing that, comes to mind when you talk about kids asking questions as a sign of them being ready is, that's a beautiful thing about people who are younger, is that they're more direct, they're more honest, they're more truthful. They say it like it is. They say it how they feel it. And that is something that we promote and allow to blossom. These are scary and challenging times, but at the same time, feeling comfortable going through the thick of it is so important. And it can really be grounding for someone to feel like they're being encouraged to explore the fears that they might be feeling. And that's not something we should just bottle up and hide inside it and put it, in a closet, but something that we should be proud of and be open about. So I really liked what you said about that.
Oh, thank you. It's an important time, and I do think, just like we were talking about last week, that really, it gives us an opportunity. Having all this time with family members gives us an opportunity to deepen our connection, and really have those kinds of more difficult, complicated conversations that maybe normally we don't have time to have. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So next, this question of how do I support my kids and my teenagers with their online coursework? I've had families that I work with struggling with this in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes, all of our kids are different about how they relate to the online coursework. Right. Sometimes kids will take it very, very seriously, and they get very anxious if the internet goes down and they're not even able to connect with their course, their class the way they were supposed to, or I didn't understand this and I don't know how to get a hold of my teacher and get the help that I need. Will you help me find ways to do this? Or I don't want to do my online coursework. I get to keep my grade. A lot of high school students, the way that schools are organizing is they're saying that, from here to the rest of the school year, maybe your grade doesn't drop. And so it doesn't matter. There's not incentive to continue to engage and do the coursework and to learn. And I think it's very, very complicated and confusing for families to figure out how to deal with that. And,
Right.
and I would always suggest that, the bottom line rule of thumb is that you want to stay consistent with your own family's values around education. And, and to encourage your kids to say, well, this is how we have always felt about schoolwork. And, we want you to not miss out on opportunities to learn. And, so maybe we stay consistent and we set a set time, every day where we're going to do schoolwork and I'm going to be working over here and we can do this together. And I will stop and help you if I need to. And if there are specific issues that you're having trouble with, I'll help. And sometimes if kids are feeling anxious and overwhelmed and they don't know, they're clearly, having symptoms of anxiety around it, then we need to take breaks. Then maybe we back off. Then maybe we go outside and spend some time together that way. So being able to gauge what really feels most helpful is most helpful moving through, is most helpful backing away and giving time and space. I think we want to be able to trust, again, that we can read what's the most important thing in any given day or, course assignment.
That's great.
I guess I think that it's, this question of how do I encourage a consistent daily routine. Adam, you and I talked about that more last time, about the idea that really the best antidepressant and anti-anxiety tools that we have are really sleep and nutritious food and regular movement, pleasurable movement, being active and awake in our bodies. And, I always talk about it like we want to treat our bodies like our favorite pet, that we would never neglect or deprive our pet of food or, daily walk or really good sleep. And so that's a really, it's an important time to be really consistent, just like we would normally be in our daily life. We go to bed at the same time, we wake up at the same time, we share meals at the same time, we go, exercise, or we do yoga, or we, take a bike ride together outside, especially as the weather is getting a little nicer now. I think and just, everything that we know is that keeping ourselves healthy is, take advantage of this time that we can sleep longer, more, because most people are normally sleep deprived. So if this is an opportunity for people to be sleeping longer, it's really, really healthy and restorative to our mental health.
It also makes me think about, when folks are eating, are you watching something that is stressful or doing something that's stressful while you're eating? Or are you, playing some calm music or nice music, or even watching a show that you like, but I just have become more aware of when I'm eating, if I'm doing something that is increasing anxiety to my system, which maybe won't allow my body to fully digest the nutrition in the food I'm eating, or if I'm allowing my body to stay calm. I love what you're saying. Let's keep moving.
Okay, so, how do I handle sibling conflict or parent-child conflict? So, I guess the first rule of thumb is to remember that you are not alone if that's what's happening in your family. You are not alone. Everybody, that I know who has kids at home right now are, they're seeing some increased conflict between siblings, or they're feeling like there's more reactivity and kids, complaining, kids whining, kids refusing to do chores, kids, not wanting to do their schoolwork, and And I think that it's important, as much as possible to kind of step back and engage from a compassionate place,
Yeah.
and do our best as much as we can to listen and to ask questions and to be compassionate when our kids are angry or emotionally reactive, or you know showing some behavioral problems in different ways, and being physically reassuring,
Mm.
offering hugs, offering support. Can I make you some tea? Can I make you some food? Do you think you're hungry? What, and, probably the bottom line dynamic is conflict is disconnecting.
Yeah.
And, we want to find ways to reconnect. And I think that that is spending time together that is relaxed, that is comforting, that is playful, having game nights, doing puzzles, doing artwork together, listening to music, like we've been talking about, going outside together, um, you know, cooking together, coming up with creative projects. We have friends who, they're a very musical family, and they've been playing music together, right? And how do we just keep on finding creative ways to reconnect when there's been some kind of tension or conflict over the course of the day?
That makes me think about, how important like just being present is, and an intentional presence with your family and loved ones. And someone might be acting out. I cite emotional and behavioral disabilities, and that's why I decided to be a teacher
Yeah.
for that population, and specifically in high school.
Mhm.
But what I've learned in my own life and also in the classroom is that a lot of times folks who are acting out are doing it just as a cry for help, cry for love, and hey, look over here, like the kid in the back of the room who's yelling out curse words or always talking. What do they really want? They don't want to be sent to the dean's room. They want attention.
Yeah.
They want to be empowered, and they want to be invited in, like you're saying, with your hands. And
Mhm.
that's that the better teacher knows how to take that student and empower them versus punish them. But I know it's very difficult for families to do this within one's own family dynamic because of all the politics, you could say. But
Yeah.
I think that it's important as a parent to remind yourself and to remember that your child is beautiful and loves you, and you love them. And at the end of the day, like, what might be needed more than anything else that they're crying out for, in any way that they're crying out, is really just a hug or some attention,
Yeah.
or just to connect.
Mhm. Mhm. And to be listened to. I think that if there's anything that I think is more powerful than anything else we can do as a parent, is to listen. So, we kind of forget that sometimes. We get into our teaching mode, and it's not as if that is an important role also. But especially during a time, kids are really missing their connections with their friends, and scheduling video play dates, or encouraging your kids to do art so that they can, show it on the video chat to their friends. I made this for you. Or, encouraging them to journal if they're old enough, helping them find ways to, or write letters to their friends, that they can send in the mail, old school,
Mm.
right? How do we,
Or
how do
virtual.
we, how do we help our kids learn how to engage and connect without the immediacy of being in the presence of one another? So, yeah.
Great. And we have just enough time to hit this last question briefly. Let's do it.
So, you know, how do I access resources in mental health care if I'm seeing signs in my kids that are problematic? And I did actually make a list that I'll share. What are the warning signs that we need to pay attention to? If I'm seeing changes in my child or teen's, appetite, if I'm seeing changes in sleep patterns, less sleep or more sleep, if I'm seeing a lot of despondency and negative body language, and overly negative attitude, if I'm seeing angry outbursts or severe irritability, if I'm seeing, isolation, avoiding contact with family and friends, if I'm seeing, sneaking alcohol, making negative comments, these kinds of things, what we want to do is recognize that our kids are showing us that they're struggling. And of course, first order of business is how do we, move towards, right? I want to give attention. I want to give, you know, um, let's spend time together talking about what's going on, and most kids will resist that immediate attention from their family members. They will resist it. But I think that it's important to really, well, maybe we need to sit down as a family and have a conversation about what's going on and what we can do to help. We want to encourage people to meet it, order of business is reach out to a pediatrician or family, practitioner, healthcare providers, so that we can, even if it's through telehealth, have an assessment and make sure that there's not some other physical health issue going on that's, creating these problems. It's harder to do right now, but it's still possible to do that. I know I've been communicating with my clients and their pediatricians much more than normal. You want to see whether you have some insurance, for mental health care. So contact your insurance provider and find out whether they have a list of providers that, are covered, so you can access mental health care that way. You also want to find out whether you have any EAP resources through your employer. Sometimes you can have free sessions, a few per year, and sometimes that's a wonderful resource for people. I think it's also important to, talk with friends and family if they have, therapist referrals. Word of mouth referrals are really wonderful, because then at least you have some confidence that this is somebody that my friend has gone or used or, been to, and they've been helpful for them. There are online resources. Flagstaffresources.com is a great resource for accessing mental health care. Online teen health is a great resource for accessing, the resources in the community. There, Northern Arizona Psychological Society has a website, and there's a referral list there. You want to use the resources that, that are online as well as, in person, so that, you can find whatever help and care that you need. And, I also encourage, people are more than welcome to contact me directly if they have questions or they need referrals. I've been a clinician in the town for a long time. I know a lot of people, and so I'd be happy to help people with resources or information. So
That's great. That's so great. And I'd love to take a very brief moment and just show people what it looks like to go to Flagstaff Resources and Online Teen Help, because these are really great resources and the sponsor of this discussion today. And so flagstaffresources.com is a great resource hub that breaks down all the different programs and resources in our community by agency, by title and program title versus by agency. So it's all listed, very easy to scroll through and do a search for what it is you're looking for. There's also these great filters for a whole range of different topics, including one specifically for COVID-19 around food, housing, health, and other. And then for folks who are younger, Online Teen Help is a great resource, and it's a website, and it's very mobile friendly and interactive, allowing you to text many times, call, email, engage just by, hovering over the different things listed. But there's a bunch of great resources here, from videos to exercises to local initiatives. It's worth taking a look and definitely sharing with your youth and your kids at home. Kirsten, any closing words of wisdom for our viewers?
I guess the most important thing that I want people to remember is that they're struggling with issues, you know, in their families, to don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. You know, I think that especially right now, there are a lot of resources that are being offered that are free. You know, I have friends who, you know, are trying to create some free, you know, clinics locally so that people can access. I just want to encourage people to ask for help. You know, there's no shame in asking for help. We all need help sometimes, and whatever you're experiencing, there really are resources in the community that can be helpful. So that's what
That's
I would.
beautiful. This is the time not to let your ego shine through, but put your ego down and just do what is good for you.
Yeah,
No one is judging, even if some people are. It means nothing. This is about you, your family, and your well-being. And there's nothing wrong at all with talking to someone who's a specialist and seeking the resources you need. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to do this again one more time next week, and we really appreciate your time and your energy and your masters, your specialty in this field of work, and you taking the time to be with us.
I'm
Thank
really
you.
glad to be here. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate what you're offering the community. I think it's really valuable. Thank you very much.